Hello all, Rick here, looking into a non-canon starship, but one that remains a favourite of mine in terms of how it simply looks. The Concorde Class Cruiser. The vessel is from the lore of Star Trek Online, which, if you're unfamiliar, is a setting where a new Klingon war emerged in the early 25th century. The ship was designed to fit in with the developing aesthetics of Star Trek Online's style, something that really began to solidify with the emergence of the Odyssey class as the Enterprise F. The Concorde maintains the dual coloration of black and off-white, with the domed and almost orca-like shapes. It's a style that I really like, but is definitely identifiably different from most Prime Universe developed starships. The focus was to be on the role of command players, meaning the ship's role was decided first, with an imposing presence that looked like it could act as a command centre, a veritable flying city. The art director for these ships was Samuel Wall, and designers included Hector Ortiz. Some settled inspirations included maintaining clear control towers, a spinning disc to resemble active radar, and the new unique silhouette inspired by Sean Weichselman's designs. So, on to its in-universe lore. The vessel actually owes its origin to the Klingon War of 2405. While there had been numerous new vessels and design attempts up to this point, a frequent point of contention in Starfleet's forces was the coordination through command and control of battles. Ill-fated attempts to improve this unity had included things like the Fleet Formation Mode of 2401, derived from Borg technology, and Mars's planetary defence grid, both of which were devastatingly vulnerable to hacking. So the plans were made to walk it back a bit and simply design a vessel to operate as a control centre for a battlefield engagement. While several vessels could fulfil this role of a control ship, it was not until 2410 that Starfleet created the Concorde specifically for this purpose. Over the course of the year, it was constructed alongside two other ships and launched upon completion alongside the variations. These were the Presidio and Geneva classes. All three of these fulfilled the same overall role, but leaned slightly more on differing aspects. The quick turnaround was due to the nature of the development project, as by this time an alliance of the Klingon Empire, Romulan Republic, and United Federation of Planets had emerged from the studies of Dyson Sphere technology a year earlier. Already practiced in cooperation, sharing the spoils of their discoveries, they'd already created a new class of starship, which is a tale for another video. Suffice to say, with the new project beginning, these teams developed not only these 3 Starfleet vessels together, but also 3 for the Klingons and 3 for the Romulans, along the same design ethos, sharing research and breakthroughs as they went. In many ways, despite the vessel being produced primarily for combat roles, it was created from more cooperation between 3 formerly antagonistic powers than had ever been seen before. While the roles of all these ships was to act as a frontline combat ship, the Concorde was geared up to act as a command point for engagements and therefore had unique fixtures to allow for this. The first was simply that it was more robust, with auxiliary backups and structural integrity generators throughout. These amendments made it an enduring vessel that could have large holes punched into its superstructure and still continue flying. Then it had a dedicated and complex array of communications equipment, which you can see on the bridge module, all designed to facilitate and protect a fleet's coordination. It also had 2 bridges. The main command bridge was for the operation of the vessel itself, as a standard, but there was a dedicated flag bridge, which was there for situational command and management of nearby allies. The flag bridge was often staffed by someone of at least Vice Admiral rank. But these comms were nothing without the ability to see what was going on out there, so it maintained dedicated sensor suites across the hull, both passive and active, all recessed and reinforced to provide tactical updates on the fly to all in range. All of these acted to pinpoint even the smallest vessel within dozens of light years, tracking and coordinating as needed, even compensating for many known cloaking devices. They were not as far-ranging as a Nebula or Sutherland's dedicated sensor suite, but they didn't need to be, as it was far more situational. Finally, it could deploy a dedicated kind of harmonic shield reinforcement platform, which in practical terms meant that the closer a ship was to it, the better its shields performed. There were other types of platform that it could deploy from numerous launch tubes across its spine. All this gave the Concorde the designation of an Operations Command battlecruiser. However, it should be noted that the same things that made this vessel an ideal command point for battlefield engagements also made it ideal for many crisis response operations. It was large, meaning that it could ferry a lot of people, had ample hangar space for many ships, and carried a small fleet with it. It was robust enough to weather most cosmic storms or hazardous locations, and importantly, had powerful and dedicated communications systems. You can see why it also excelled at evacuations and crisis coordination, meaning that of the three designs, in my opinion at least, it had the potential for longevity outside of simple warfare. The first of this line was christened the USS Concorde NX 47401 and had a crew capacity of 750 to 1,250 personnel. It was later recommissioned as the NCC 94500. The vessel was an impressive 890.5 metres long, making it about 385 wide and 190 tall, including the antennas. In terms of propulsion, the ship had massive warp nacelles, and 4 of them for that matter. However, they were positioned close together on robust sweeping pylons. The most notable feature, at least on the Concorde version of these ships, is the ample Bussard collectors, suggesting that increased focus was given on fueling the vessel with harvested deuterium, so it likely was a rather hungry ship. On the impulse drive front, however, it was not actually that powerful. While it featured new reactor technology, the actual drives were rather modest, although with a high output, so it was rather fast when it got going, and could shift several times its mass if needed, but it was rather slow to turn. There were several additions to combat this, beginning with the ball turrets to increase its field of fire, and there were also fighters, basically armed shuttles or Peregrine-class small craft, that were there to defend the cruiser from quicker adversaries. It had 5 shuttle bays in total. There is a single fore-hangar above the main deflector and recessed into the neck, from which fighter-dedicated small craft can quickly launch. But there is also a rear shuttle bay nestled in between the dividing pylons and secondary hull. This appears to be the main shuttle bay and offers exemplary cover and protection, but thanks to its positioning, does mean that its usage is likely limited to Starfleet craft. On the upper neck there are also 2 more adjacent bays, while on the underside is a single smaller bay with the shuttle observatory positioned below it. This last one is most likely to be the cargo access, while the 2 upper are for visitors. Naturally, they need not always carry fighters, and in times of peace could easily be swapped out for cargo or worker vessels. This class, as well as its sister designs, were all incredibly well armed. It featured 17 Type 10 phaser arrays, 10 on top and 7 underneath, although the higher number was generally because they were smaller strips rather than the continuous rails. Each of these arrays, however, featured 3 smaller glowing strips, which are either powerful amplifiers or dedicated targeting sensors. However, it also featured 4 independently firing ball-mounted turrets, 2 on the saucer and 2 rear-facing for point defence. Alongside these were 4 front-mounted phaser cannons, which featured a unique design. Unlike the Defiant's inbuilt pulse phaser cannons, these featured external focusing prongs around a central emitter, theoretically giving them a wider firing arc, which is useful for the slower turning cruiser. On top of this, they had 4 torpedo launchers, 2 fore and 2 rear-facing. Both in battle, managing crises, or simply acting as a touchstone for deep space exploration operations in lieu of a starbase, the Concorde class functioned well as ensuring coordination, control and support among other Starfleet and Allied ships, which was at the core of everything it did. Numerous shuttle bays dedicated communications, and a hardy command centre all facilitated this even beyond the battlefield. With it being the product of a unified design program too, it also alleviated any potential power imbalance between the contributing parties, as they all designed their own equivalent based on the research, which I feel maintains the spirit of the Federation, even when producing a battlecruiser. Thanks for watching this breakdown on one of my favourite designs from Star Trek Online. I think the imagery of a command and control centre was definitely captured in this bulbous and imposing hull of the Concorde class, especially around the bridge. Until the next video, thanks again, I've been Rick, and goodbye.